because he understands that some connections do not simply make life more enjoyable. They become part of the story that shapes who we are and who we are still becoming. And when a relationship reaches that level of significance, something profound begins to happen. The focus shifts away from what the relationship provides in the moment and toward what it represents over time. It becomes more than companionship, more than attraction, more than shared experiences. It becomes a source of meaning, a source of perspective, a source of emotional strength. This is often when a man starts seeing someone not merely as important, but as irreplaceable, not because nobody else in the world could ever possess admirable qualities, but because nobody else could replicate the exact impact this particular person has had on his life. That impact is unique, and uniqueness creates value. Another sign that someone has become a once-in-a-lifetime woman in his eyes is that he begins paying attention to emotional moments that others might overlook. Simple conversation becomes memorable. A word of encouragement stays with him. A moment of understanding during a difficult day lingers in his thoughts. These experiences matter because emotional significance changes perception. What once seemed ordinary becomes meaningful. What once felt small becomes unforgettable. This is one of the ways deep appreciation develops. Not through grand gestures, through consistent emotional impact. There is also the way meaningful people influence self-belief. Sometimes the right person sees strengths before we see them ourselves. They notice potential when confidence is low. They offer encouragement when doubt is loud. They provide perspective when challenges seem overwhelming. Over time, this support becomes part of how a person views themselves. A man who experiences this kind of influence often realizes that the relationship has contributed to his growth in ways he never anticipated. That realization creates a level of gratitude that is difficult to put into words. Another sign is that he begins measuring success differently. For meaningful relationships, success is often defined by external achievements, career goals, financial milestones, recognition, accomplishments. These things matter, but truly meaningful relationships often expand the definition of success. Success becomes about connection, trust, shared experiences, personal growth, emotional fulfillment. A man who sees someone as a once-in-a-lifetime woman often recognizes that some of life's greatest rewards cannot be measured by traditional standards. They are measured by the quality of the relationships we build. There is another subtle shift that occurs. He starts becoming more patient. Patience is often a reflection of value. People make time for what matters. They extend understanding to what matters. They invest energy into what matters. When someone becomes deeply important, patience increases, because preserving the connection becomes more important than temporary frustrations. This does not mean disagreements disappear. It means the relationship becomes more valuable than the desire to win every argument. Another sign is that he begins noticing how much emotional stability the relationship provides. Stability is not always exciting, but it is incredibly valuable. It creates a foundation for trust, foundation for growth, foundation for long-term happiness. In a world that often feels unpredictable, emotional stability becomes a rare gift. And when a man consistently experiences that stability through a relationship, he begins appreciating it more than he may have ever expected. There is also the realization that meaningful relationships create a sense of belonging. Everyone wants to feel understood, accepted, valued. The right connection often provides those experiences naturally, without effort, without performance, without pretending. A man who feels genuinely accepted often develops deep emotional attachment because acceptance allows authenticity, and authenticity allows true connection. Another sign is that he becomes increasingly aware of emotional trust. Trust changes everything. Without trust, people remain cautious. With trust, people become open. They share fears, dreams, goals, uncertainties. Trust creates the environment where intimacy can flourish. And when a relationship consistently provides that environment, its value becomes increasingly obvious. There is another important truth. People often underestimate the impact of reliability. Reliability may not be dramatic, it may not create excitement, but it creates confidence, knowing someone will keep their word, knowing someone will show up, knowing someone will remain supportive during difficult times. These things create emotional security, and emotional security is one of the most attractive qualities any relationship can offer. Another sign is that he starts appreciating the relationship during difficult periods even more than during easy ones. Anyone can enjoy good times. Challenges reveal depth. Challenges reveal commitment. Challenges reveal character. When someone remains supportive during difficult moments, their importance becomes undeniable. A man who experiences that kind of consistency often realizes that he has found something exceptionally rare. There is also the way meaningful relationships influence perspective. The right person can help transform how challenges are viewed, how opportunities are approached, how setbacks are handled, not by controlling decisions, but by providing insight, encouragement, balance. Their perspective becomes valuable because it consistently contributes something positive. And the more positive influence someone has, the more significant they become. Another sign is that he begins associating the relationship with emotional safety. Emotional safety allows vulnerability. It allows honesty. It allows growth. People cannot fully connect while constantly protecting themselves. They connect when they feel safe enough to be authentic. A man who experiences emotional safety often understands how rare it truly is. And because it is rare, he values it deeply. There is another subtle shift that often appears. He becomes more intentional about creating memories, not because he is trying to manufacture significance, because significance already exists. Meaningful relationships inspire people to invest in experiences together, shared adventures, meaningful conversations, simple moments of connection. These experiences become the memories that strengthen bonds over time. Another sign is that he starts seeing the relationship as part of his identity. This is a powerful development. At first, relationships exist alongside life. Truly meaningful relationships become integrated into life. They influence decisions, goals, priorities, values. A man who reaches this point often realizes that the relationship is no longer separate from his future vision. It has become part of it. There is also the realization that admiration deepens when character is revealed. Character is tested during challenges, during disappointments, during uncertainty. When someone consistently demonstrates integrity, resilience, and compassion during difficult times, admiration grows stronger. Because character is what remains when circumstances change. And lasting admiration is built on character far more than circumstance. Another sign is that he becomes more grateful for ordinary moments. This is one of the clearest signs of deep emotional connection. When someone truly matters, extraordinary experiences are not required. Simple conversation becomes valuable. Shared laugh becomes memorable. Quiet evening becomes meaningful. Because the significance comes from the connection itself rather than the activity. There is another important truth. The people who impact us most are often the people who help us grow. Growth is not always comfortable. It requires reflection, learning, change. But meaningful relationships encourage growth naturally. They inspire people to become more self-aware, more compassionate, more confident, more resilient. A man who recognizes this influence often realizes that the relationship has contributed to his development in profound ways. Another sign is that he begins valuing understanding more than agreement. Mature relationships are not built on identical opinions. They are built on mutual respect. the ability to listen, the ability to empathize, the ability to understand another perspective. When someone becomes deeply important, understanding becomes more valuable than being right. Because preserving connection matters more than protecting pride. There is also the way meaningful people become associated with hope. Hope for the future, hope during challenges, hope during moments of uncertainty. Their presence creates optimism because they consistently contribute positive energy to life. And optimism is powerful. It influences decisions, motivation, resilience. A man who associates someone with hope often develops a level of appreciation that continues growing over time. Another sign is that he recognizes how much emotional richness the relationship provides. Emotional richness comes from trust, shared experiences, support, understanding. These qualities add depth to life. They transform ordinary days into meaningful ones. They create memories that endure. They strengthen resilience during challenges. And they contribute to overall well-being in ways that are difficult to measure. Perhaps the deepest realization of all is that once-in-a-lifetime people are not defined by perfection. They are defined by impact. Their value is revealed through consistency rather than intensity, through character rather than image, through support rather than promises, through trust rather than appearances. Over time, they become woven into the emotional fabric of someone's life. They become part of the confidence that fuels growth, part of the perspective that guides decisions, part of the encouragement that sustains resilience, and part of the memories that give life meaning. A man who truly sees someone as a once-in-a-lifetime woman eventually understands that her significance extends far beyond romance. She represents a rare combination of qualities that elevate every area of life. She brings strength during moments of weakness, clarity during moments of confusion, and comfort during moments of uncertainty. She helps create a version of life that feels richer, deeper, and more purposeful. And as that awareness grows, appreciation becomes stronger because he recognizes that extraordinary people are not rare because they are perfect. They are rare because their presence consistently inspires growth, trust, gratitude, connection, and happiness in ways that continue revealing their value year after year, making them not just unforgettable, but truly life-changing, making them not just unforgettable, but truly life-changing. When someone has that kind of effect on a person's life, appreciation begins to evolve into something even deeper. It becomes respect, not the kind of respect that is demanded, the kind that is earned naturally through character, consistency, and emotional presence. Respect grows when someone repeatedly demonstrates integrity, when their actions align with their words, when they remain kind during difficult moments, when they continue showing strength without losing compassion. A man who sees someone as a once-in-a-lifetime woman often develops a profound respect for who they are, not just for how they make him feel, because feelings can change from day to day. Character endures. And enduring qualities create lasting admiration. Another sign that someone has reached this level of significance is that he begins noticing the positive influence they have on people around them. Kindness has a ripple effect. Generosity has a ripple effect. Encouragement has a ripple effect. Meaningful people rarely impact only one person. Their presence improves conversations, strengthens relationships, creates warmth, inspires confidence. A man who observes these effects often gains an even greater appreciation because he realizes that the qualities he values are not isolated moments. They are part of who this person truly is. There is also the way meaningful relationships create emotional balance. Life constantly presents extremes, stress and relief, success and failure, confidence and doubt. Meaningful connections help create stability within those fluctuations. They provide perspective when emotions run high. They provide comfort when challenges arise. They provide encouragement when motivation begins to fade. This emotional balance becomes incredibly valuable because it helps people navigate life with greater resilience. Another sign is that he starts paying attention to how he feels after spending time with them. This is something many people overlook. The healthiest relationships often leave people feeling energized rather than exhausted, supported rather than judged, inspired rather than discouraged, peaceful rather than anxious. A man who consistently experiences these feelings begins to understand that the relationship is contributing something deeply positive to his life. And once that realization becomes clear, appreciation naturally grows stronger. There is another subtle change that often takes place. He begins prioritizing quality over quantity. Meaningful relationships teach people that connection is not measured by how often two people communicate. It is measured by the depth of those interactions. A single genuine conversation can be more meaningful than dozens of superficial ones. A single moment of understanding can strengthen a bond more than weeks of routine communication. When someone becomes deeply important, quality becomes the focus, because emotional depth becomes more valuable than constant contact. Another sign is that he starts recognizing the comfort that comes from being fully understood. Being understood is one of the most powerful emotional experiences a person can have. It creates validation, connection, belonging, the feeling that someone sees who you truly are and accepts you anyway. A man who experiences this kind of understanding often develops a level of appreciation that continues deepening over time. Because genuine understanding is rare, and rare things are valuable. There is also the way meaningful people challenge us to become better, not through criticism, not through pressure, through example, through encouragement, through belief. The right person often inspires growth simply by embodying qualities we admire. Watching someone demonstrate resilience can inspire resilience. Watching someone show compassion can encourage compassion. Watching someone pursue growth can inspire personal development. This influence becomes part of the relationship's lasting impact. Another sign is that he becomes increasingly aware of emotional honesty. Honesty creates trust. Trust creates intimacy. Intimacy creates connection. When someone consistently communicates with authenticity and openness, it creates an environment where deeper relationships can flourish. A man who values this quality often realizes that emotional honesty is one of the foundations upon which lasting relationships are built. There is another important truth. People often remember how someone made them feel long after they forget specific details. The feeling of being encouraged, the feeling of being accepted, the feeling of being supported, the feeling of being understood. These emotional experiences remain powerful because they shape memories. Meaningful people consistently create positive emotional experiences that leave lasting impressions. Another sign is that he begins seeing challenges differently because of the relationship. Difficulties that once felt overwhelming become manageable. Obstacles that once seemed impossible become opportunities for growth. Not because the challenges disappear, because support changes perspective. The right relationship often strengthens a person's belief in their ability to overcome adversity, and that belief becomes part of the relationship's value. There is also the realization that meaningful connections often provide emotional refuge. Life can be demanding, stressful, unpredictable. The right relationship creates a space where people can recharge emotionally, a space where they can be authentic, reflect, recover, reconnect with what matters. A man who experiences that kind of emotional refuge often recognizes its value more with each dramatic year. Another sign is that he begins appreciating the relationship not only for what it is today, but for what it continues to become. Healthy relationships evolve, they deepen, they mature, they reveal new layers of trust, understanding, and connection. A man who sees someone as a once-in-a-lifetime woman often appreciates this ongoing growth because it reinforces the uniqueness of the bond. There is another subtle shift that often occurs. He starts becoming more intentional about gratitude. Gratitude changes perception. It shifts attention toward what is valuable rather than what is lacking. When someone becomes deeply important, gratitude naturally increases because their positive influence becomes impossible to overlook. He notices the support, the encouragement, the kindness, the consistency. And the more he notices these qualities, the more meaningful they become. Another sign is that he recognizes how much emotional courage the relationship encourages. Courage is not always dramatic. Sometimes courage is simply being vulnerable, trusting, opening up, sharing fears, expressing hopes. Meaningful relationships create environments where this kind of courage feels safe. And that safety often contributes to personal growth in remarkable ways. There is also the way meaningful people help create perspective during difficult times. Perspective can transform challenges, can turn setbacks into lessons, frustrations into opportunities, uncertainty into possibility. The right person often provides this perspective naturally, helping others see situations more clearly and approach them with greater confidence. A man who experiences this influence often understands how valuable it truly is. Another sign is that he becomes increasingly protective of the emotional bond itself. Not out of fear, not out of insecurity, out of appreciation. He recognizes that trust takes time to build. That connection takes effort to strengthen. That meaningful relationships are worth nurturing. Because he values the bond, he becomes more intentional about preserving it. There is another truth worth remembering. The people who leave the greatest impact on our lives are often the people who consistently show up. Not only during celebrations, not only during victories, but during challenges, disappointments, moments of uncertainty. Their presence during those times reveals a level of commitment and care that cannot be faked. And those experiences create memories that endure. Another sign is that he begins viewing the relationship as a source of emotional wealth, not financial wealth, emotional wealth. Wealth that comes from trust, support, understanding, shared experiences, growth. These things enrich life in ways that money never can. And when someone consistently contributes to that emotional richness, their value becomes extraordinary. There is also the realization that meaningful relationships often create a sense of purpose, not because one person becomes responsible for another person's happiness, but because genuine connection reminds people of what matters. It reminds them of the importance of kindness, trust, growth, partnership, shared experiences. These reminders help shape priorities and create a deeper sense of fulfillment. Another sign is that he notices how much stronger his appreciation becomes over time, rather than fading. Many things lose their appeal with familiarity. Meaningful people often become more valuable with familiarity. The more he learns about their character, the more admiration grows. The more experiences they share, the more trust develops. The more challenges they overcome, the stronger the connection becomes. And this ongoing growth reinforces the realization that what he has found is truly rare. Perhaps the most powerful realization of all is that once-in-a-lifetime people are not extraordinary because they create perfection. They are extraordinary because they create transformation. They help people see themselves differently. They help people believe in possibilities they once doubted. They help people become stronger, wiser, more compassionate and more authentic. Their influence extends beyond individual moments and becomes part of a larger journey of growth and connection. They remind us that the most valuable relationships are not built on constant excitement, but on not trust, respect, understanding, and shared purpose. They show us that true significance is measured not by dramatic gestures, but by consistent presence, by showing up, by caring, by encouraging, by believing, And as a man reflects on all of these things, he often arrives at a simple but profound conclusion. Some people enter our lives and leave pleasant memories. Others enter our lives and leave lasting lessons. But a rare few leave an impact so deep that it changes how we define love, connection, trust, and partnership forever, becoming a standard against which every meaningful experience is measured, and a reminder that the most extraordinary people are often the ones whose quiet strength, unwavering character, and genuine heart continue adding value to life long after the initial excitement has passed. Long after the initial excitement has passed, those qualities continue revealing their value in new ways. That is one of the defining characteristics of a truly meaningful connection. Its worth does not diminish with time. It expands. Every shared experience adds another layer of understanding. Every challenge overcome together adds another layer of trust. Every moment of support adds another layer of appreciation. And eventually, what began as attraction evolves into something far deeper than either person may have anticipated. A man who sees someone as a once-in-a-lifetime woman often notices that the relationship continues to surprise him, not because of dramatic changes, because new qualities keep revealing themselves. Strength during adversity, patience during frustration, wisdom during uncertainty, compassion during difficult moments. These qualities become visible through life itself, and every time they appear, admiration grows stronger. There is also the way meaningful people influence emotional habits. The right relationship often encourages healthier communication, greater self-awareness, more patience, more empathy, more gratitude. These changes may happen gradually, but they can have a lasting impact. A man who recognizes these shifts often realizes that the relationship has improved, not only his happiness, but also his character. And that realization creates a level of appreciation that goes far beyond romance. Another sign is that he begins valuing emotional depth more than external appearances. This does not mean attraction disappears. Attraction remains important. Emotional depth begins to carry greater weight. The ability to have meaningful conversations, the ability to discuss fears and dreams, the ability to share vulnerabilities without fear of judgment. These experiences create bonds that physical attraction alone cannot sustain. And once someone experiences that depth, it becomes difficult to settle for anything less. There is another subtle shift that often occurs. He starts viewing the relationship as a partnership rather than simply a source of enjoyment. Partnership involves shared support, shared growth, shared commitment. It means recognizing that both people contribute to the strength of the connection. When someone becomes deeply significant, the desire to build together often replaces the desire to simply experience the moment. This shift reflects a deeper level of emotional investment. Another sign is that he becomes increasingly aware of the relationship's positive influence on his outlook. Meaningful people often help us become more optimistic, not because they ignore life's challenges, because they remind us that challenges can be faced. They remind us that support exists. They remind us that growth is possible. This influence can transform how a person approaches both relationships and life itself. There is also the realization that trust creates freedom. Many people think trust creates security, and it does. But it also creates freedom. Freedom to be authentic, freedom to communicate honestly, freedom to pursue goals without constant fear. When trust is strong, people no longer spend energy protecting themselves from each other. Instead, they can invest that energy into growth and connection. A man who experiences this often develops profound appreciation for the person who helped create that environment. Another sign is that he notices how naturally he seeks their presence during important moments. Good news, bad news, moments of celebration, moments of uncertainty. The people who matter most are often the people we want beside us during life's significant experiences. Not because they have all the answers, because their presence itself provides value, comfort, encouragement, perspective, connection. When someone consistently occupies that place in a man's mind, it reveals how important they have become. There is another important truth. Meaningful relationships often improve emotional resilience. Resilience is not the absence of difficulty. It is the ability to recover from difficulty. The right relationship strengthens resilience by providing support, perspective, and encouragement. Knowing that someone believes in you can make challenges feel less overwhelming. Knowing that someone understands, you can make setbacks easier to endure. Over time, this support becomes part of a person's ability to navigate life successfully. Another sign is that he starts appreciating qualities that cannot be measured. Kindness, integrity, loyalty, compassion, emotional intelligence. These qualities may not attract immediate attention in the same way that appearance or charm can, but they become increasingly valuable with time because they shape the quality of every interaction, every conversation, every shared experience. A man who recognizes these qualities often understands that they are among the rarest and most important traits a person can possess. There is also the way meaningful people influence confidence, not through constant reassurance, but through belief. The right person often believes in us when we struggle to believe in ourselves. They remind us of strengths we overlook, potential we underestimate, progress we fail to notice. And this belief can become a powerful source of confidence over time. A man who experiences that influence often recognizes that it has played a significant role in his growth. Another sign is that he begins valuing emotional consistency more than emotional intensity. Intensity can be exciting, but consistency creates stability. Consistency creates trust. Consistency creates peace. The healthiest relationships are not necessarily the most dramatic. They are often the most dependable. Ones where support remains steady, where communication remains honest, where effort remains consistent. A man who sees someone as a once-in-a-lifetime woman often comes to appreciate these qualities more and more with each passing year. There is another subtle realization that often emerges. He starts understanding that meaningful relationships require presence, not perfection. Presence, being there during important moments, listening during difficult conversations, offering support when challenges arise. Perfection is impossible. Presence is powerful. And meaningful people consistently demonstrate presence in ways that leave lasting impressions. Another sign is that he becomes more aware of emotional gratitude during ordinary days. Not only during special occasions, not only during major milestones, but during everyday life. Conversation after a long day, a moment of encouragement, shared laugh. These ordinary experiences become meaningful because they are shared with someone who matters deeply. This appreciation for everyday moments is often a sign of profound emotional connection. There is also the realization that meaningful people help create emotional clarity. Life can be confusing. Relationships can be complicated. Goals can feel uncertain. The right person often helps bring clarity simply through their perspective, their support, their understanding, their ability to listen. This clarity becomes incredibly valuable because it helps people make decisions with greater confidence. Another sign is that he begins recognizing how much joy comes from mutual growth. Healthy relationships are not static. They evolve. Both people learn. Both people grow. Both people become stronger through shared experiences. Watching someone pursue growth can be inspiring. Supporting that growth can be rewarding. And experiencing growth together can strengthen the connection in powerful ways. There is another truth worth remembering. The people who become most significant in our lives often teach us lessons without realizing it. They teach patience through example, resilience through action, compassion through consistency, trust through reliability. These lessons become part of who we are. Because of that, their impact extends far beyond the relationship itself. Another sign is that he starts measuring the value of the relationship by its depth rather than its convenience. Convenience is easy. Depth requires effort, trust, vulnerability, communication, shared experiences. These things take time to develop. Once they do, they create something far more meaningful than convenience ever could. A man who recognizes this often understands just how rare deep connection truly is. There is also the way meaningful relationships inspire hope for the future. Not because they promise certainty, because they create confidence. Confidence that challenges can be faced together. Confidence that growth is possible. Confidence that support will remain available during difficult times. This hope becomes a powerful force because it influences how people approach life itself. Another sign is that he becomes increasingly protective of the values that make the relationship strong. Trust, respect, honesty, communication. These qualities become priorities because he understands their importance. He recognizes that meaningful relationships are built upon them. And because he values the relationship, he values the principles that sustain it. There is another realization that often arrives with time. Most meaningful relationships do not simply add happiness to life. They create meaning within it. They provide opportunities for growth, moments of connection, experiences that shape perspective, memories that endure. These things become part of life's foundation. And when someone contributes consistently to that foundation, their significance becomes undeniable. Another sign is that appreciation continues growing even after years of familiarity. This may be one of the clearest indicators of a once-in-a-lifetime connection. Many things become less exciting as they become familiar. Meaningful people often become more valuable because familiarity reveals depth, it reveals character, it reveals consistency. It reveals all the qualities that cannot be seen at first glance. And those qualities often become more impressive with time. Perhaps the deepest truth of all is that once in a lifetime people transform ordinary experiences into meaningful memories, and meaningful memories into lasting influence. Their impact is not confined to a single chapter of life. It becomes woven throughout the entire story. They help shape confidence during moments of doubt, courage during moments of fear, and resilience during moments of challenge. They create an environment where authenticity feels safe, where growth feels possible, and where trust feels natural. Their value reveals itself not through grand declarations, but through countless moments of consistency, kindness, understanding, and support. Over time, these moments accumulate until they form something extraordinary. A bond built not merely on attraction, but on mutual respect, emotional depth, shared growth, and unwavering appreciation. When a man fully recognizes the magnitude of that bond, he understands that what makes someone a once-in-a-lifetime woman is not perfection, mystery, or unattainability. It is the rare ability to enrich life in ways that continue expanding with time, leaving an impact that strengthens confidence, deepens gratitude, inspires growth, and reminds him every day that some of the most valuable things in life are not measured by how exciting they are at the beginning, but by how meaningful they become as the years continue to unfold.